Welcome back to another episode of Weiss Advice. I'm your host, as always, Yonah Weiss, here today with another awesome guest. We got Linda Holtz in the house. How are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm super excited to be here. So thank you so much for having me on.
Grateful for you to join me. It's been a long time coming. I really appreciate you taking the time out. And for our listeners who may not be familiar with you, obviously you're somewhat in the real estate world, but that hasn't always been the case. And I'd love to kind of hear your background. From your voice, it sounds like you have a slight accent. I know that you're from France originally, but for our listeners, tell us about your story and how you got involved in real estate.
Yes, absolutely. So yes, I am from France. I came to the United States when I was finishing my master's degree. And it feels like it was 1,000 years ago and also last year, all at the same time. So when I first got here, I was in sales. I was in door-to-door sales, which is not as glamorous as it sounds, of course. But at the same time, I always tell people, you know, I have 2 degrees, and nothing taught me as much as 2 years on the field in the streets of New York City, knocking on doors. Sometimes literally on the street. I did some street fundraising at some point. And it just taught me so much about myself, about people, about communication, about having the grit to keep going and the discipline, even when it's hard, and goal setting and sticking to your goals. And it was great. I really loved it. I had done sales before in my country, but that was my first real job as an adult. And and it was awesome. But eventually, of course, I couldn't have done that my whole life. So eventually, I wanted something a little more stable. And property management found me. I mean, to this day, I don't remember ever applying to the job, but I entered a property management company, and that's how I got into real estate. So that was 10. It's gonna be 11 years ago
Wow.
next month. So it's pretty crazy how time flies.
Wow. And so you really got your start in real estate just through the property management, and obviously with a background in sales, I'm sure that helped quite a bit. And to this day, now having shifted from not just the property management side, but now you and your husband run an investment company where you're buying and investing in multifamily real estate. So that's a big switch. And I love the name of your company, by the way. It's M2RE, which is Married to Real Estate. But I just like noticed it in the logo. It's like the mem, the not mem, the M, sorry. In Hebrew, M is mem, which is funny in my brain. Like I looked at it and said the wrong word. Anyways, the letter M is like the inverse of a W, right? So it's like W2, which is, a lot of the people are coming from that W2 job going to into real estate. And I don't know if you thought of that, but that's to me that just jumped out at me.
I hadn't thought about of that, but I love it because one of the reasons we called it Married to Real Estate is both my mother-in-law and sister-in-law in property management.
Hmm.
It happens to be how I met my husband. So I always joke that real estate has always been the third wheel in our relationship because we both came from that W-2 background. So I love it.
That's awesome because I mean, married to real estate, it's like almost cliche, right? A lot of
Yeah,
people say like,
exactly.
"Oh yeah, you're married to your job," right? But in this way, it's amazing because it tells us a lot about, who you are and
Yeah.
what your passion is, and you're living it and you're doing it together with your husband. So how did it go from, being in the property management, meeting your husband, who obviously his family was, involved in the property management side, to realizing, well, there's more to real estate than actually, just managing third party for someone else. What was your first experience on the ownership side or the investment side of that?
Yes, and I love that you asked that question because going back to the W-2 thing, I was just on the phone with an investor this morning and telling him I'm not from the group or the team or however you want to call it, like the school of people who tell you you have to quit your W-2 right away. For me, I am proud of the fact that I started investing because my job gave me that confidence. I already knew how to take care of facilities. I've always been a condo manager, so I've always taken care of homeowner associations
Hmm.
at work. But there's a lot of things that translate, right? Like facilities management is the same thing, staff management is the same thing, vendor management is the same thing. The only thing I hadn't done until I did it for myself was taking care of like leasing per se, right? Like leasing rules and all that kind of stuff. But that confidence is what made me realize once I was ready to buy for myself, like a place to live. Back then I was still single. I was like, if I'm gonna buy a place that I want to build appreciation and I want to do all those things and like get the tax benefits and all that, then I might as well also get a little bit of the cash flow for having something else. And so our first experience, it's funny because I ended up finding the house when we were just dating with my husband, but then we ended up moving in together and that was a triplex. So we moved in the middle and we rented the units above and below us. And that was the first time we lived together, we were landlords together, and then COVID started. So baptism by the fire for sure.
Wow. Okay. And that was probably a very interesting experience. And that was all you guys were in Texas at the time. I know since then you've moved on to Chicago, which quite a big difference, especially in terms of weather, especially right now.
Yes. So actually, our first property was in Chicago, and then we
Oh,
moved to Texas, and we continued to be landlords in Texas until we got into multifamily. But yeah, we just moved back, and it's been cold. It's like Chicago is trying to test how much we really want to be here.
yeah. Well, you're there. I mean, you started there, you're back there. So you guys are in
True.
why multifamily though? I mean, is your property management experience, you said you had experience with, the tenants and HOAs, which is more like condo associations, but has your experience in property management been exclusively in residential and in multifamily?
Yes, definitely. And so, for example, we are on a project right now that's going to be a retail center, but that's not something that I had ever encountered in my W-2. The reason why multifamily is because eventually we realized we love real estate, we love investing. Again, that's why the name, right? Because we wanted to portray that not only real estate is something that we have bonded over in our relationship, but it's also how much we love it, how much we're
Mm,
committed to it. They always say, you probably want to help investors who are like you. And it's like, okay, well, whether you are married to real estate because you're doing it with your spouse, or whether it's because you're single, but you love it so much like we do, either way, we want to help you out. And so for us, because we realized that early on, we also realized that, hey, as much as we're okay with the W-2 life, we know that we don't want to do it forever. And we know that we want to scale our investment
mhm.
faster so that we can get out of the job, not get out of the job, but we didn't want to feel like we had to be tied to it forever. And
Right.
so that's when we found multifamily. And for us, it was the easy way to scale, even though it's not easy at all.
Definitely not easy. No, it certainly definitely takes, but it's a team sport, and the fact that you're doing it together with your husband makes it much easier because you're doing it like full time, right? And it's hard to take. You can't really take off, right?
No,
Um,
correct.
but were you part of any sort of like mentorship program or a group like that that kind of encouraged you or got you involved in your first deal? Because I find that's really, a
Yes.
lot of people get started that way.
Yes, definitely. And one thing that I'm huge on is networking. And I've always wanted to be in the room where you're going to meet the people, right? Like back in my country, that's why I went for my master's degree because I did it in a business school. I was like, okay, I need to
Mm,
start building my network right now, even when I was like 18, 19 years old. And then I moved here for the same thing because growing up in another country, I had that vision of America is the land of the American dream, but only if you go for it. I mean, if you like place yourself in the right rooms, if you surround yourself with the right people. And so early on, when we started our multifamily journey, the main reason why we joined a mastermind was for that networking aspect, to be able to meet the players faster. And of course, there was a lot of education involved. But for us, it was like all this education can be found online or YouTube University or at the library if you're old school like I am. But I'm not gonna know the people until I really make a conscious choice of like I want to be with them where they are, where they're doing the thing, quote unquote, at all times. It sounds like it's a lot, but that's really what it is. Like you said, there's
right.
no days off, and you have to be able to always interact with your community.
100%. No, that's amazing. And it's so true. I mean, networking, one of my, and we start off the podcast with the intro is, your network is your net worth. And I put it on socks, I like it so much. That slogan, it really means a lot to me because it's true. The people you surround yourself with are really going to change your life, really going to change everything about your business, about how you go about doing things. And so it's really important not to take that lightly. Surrounding yourself with the right people and joining a mastermind or a group, a mentorship program, something like that, where you have like-minded people who are on a similar journey, just accelerates your growth so much more. Yeah, I can't advocate for finding something like that, enough because it's so true. So obviously, you and your husband are, prime examples of how that can happen. You start out small, and then the growth just it takes off from there.
Very true, very true. I mean, somebody was asking me the other day, how do you find deals? And I had to be blunt with them. I told them, honestly, we found partners. We found people that we cultivated that relationship for a while, and eventually they reached out when they had an opportunity.
Hmm.
And I had to be very transparent with myself and with him that, like, my deal flow is not the best. Like, I hear people who tell me, oh, we underwrite 100 deals every month. That's not me. And it's okay to find your lane, right? My lane is building those authentic relationships, both with investors, but also with our partners.
Sure. And you can't do everything. I mean, obviously, if you have a team and you have an acquisitions team who their job is to underwrite and find deals like that. Yes, you can underwrite 100 deals a month. Like that's not a problem. Now you can even, use, ChatGPT or whatever to do most of the work for you. But if that's not your lane, that's not what you're the best at, and it's not the best use of your time, then it doesn't matter. Like you said, finding partners that can do that, or eventually you guys will be able to scale your own company if that's a goal, and bring on an acquisitions member who that's their primary job. So it's not something that you have to do everything. And the funny thing is that in the multifamily business, all right, there are many different roles to play. And you having the experience
Yes.
with the sales and with the investor relations and with the property management, that gives you a huge step up above a lot of other people. Yes, finding deals is great, but closing the deals and managing the deals is more important. And so having
Yes.
that skill set, I think, is even more important to that to the side of the business.
I totally agree. And I cannot echo enough what you just said. I think that a lot of people see a closing as the end. And it's like, no,
Mhm.
that's the beginning. Like, first of all, it's not as easy as it sounds to close a deal just because you found one. It doesn't just take a seller wanting to sell and you wanting to buy. There's a lot more involved. But even when you do get to the closing line, that's when everything actually starts. That's so true.
Yeah. Have you found other people in your property management space that have also like expressed interest in investing in multifamily now that they've seen you kind of do it? Has it been like your influence rubbing off on other people?
That I don't know, but I don't know about our influence. But yes, it is funny too, is as you start doing things, you realize who is already interested or doing things. Like I've talked to so many people now in my sphere of influence who have told me, hey, I'm interested in what you're doing because I happen to already have a condo or two or a house somewhere else out of state. Or even I actually have a friend of mine who referred me to a lady who I knew, but never would have imagined that she's already a passive investor herself in multiple syndications. And it's like, oh my gosh, I never would have found out if I didn't get in this industry myself. So it's always funny when you think, hey, I just discovered this thing and it's brand new and it's great. And then you start talking about it and people are like, it's not that new. Like we knew
Right.
we were doing it. Welcome to the club.
Well, listen, everyone learns at their own pace and finds things at their own time when when it's best for them. So we're I'd love to kind of switch and understand a little more in terms of how how you focus on social media, because it's something that you've developed a lot. You guys started a meetup as well, like a virtual meetup. I know I had a virtual meetup for a long time, but you guys kind of did that as well. And I think your social media is amazing, like what you've done, and that's how
Thank
we
you.
we really connected the first, right, through the LinkedIn and the LinkedIn challenges that we've done. But I'd love to kind of hear how you've used that in your business, and more about the meetup as well.
Yeah, and I really have to give you your flowers for those two things. Number one, the LinkedIn challenge I feel like has changed my business. But also the in-person meetup that you've done, I haven't had a chance to go yet, but I've only heard good things about it. And I love how you've really thought about like being intentional where hey, it's a one-time thing and I'll be here that week or I'll be there that next month, right?
Right.
But I feel like the community, you're so good at building those relationships yourself that when you come into town, people are so excited. I'm like, I cannot wait to go to one of those. So yes,
Chicago's on
as
the
much
short
as
list. Chicago is one of the future events. Well, we'll see.
oh, I cannot wait to go. Trust me, I missed the Dallas one last time. And talking about socks, I still have my socks for that one, even though I didn't make it. So I love it. But yeah, to go back to the social media, I 100% will say it until I'm blue in the face. So the way I started on LinkedIn was I'll give a quick shout out to Hunter Thompson as well,
Hmm.
because I did one of his 5 day challenge, and he was the first one, at least for me, to say, hey, you have to be on social media, but you have to do it consistently. Don't post for a week or two and then be gone. And
Right.
so I started because of his advice, but the reason I really stuck to it is because I want to say maybe a month or two into starting, you had one of your LinkedIn challenge that forced me to really like be consistent for 10 days in a row. And I was like, this is it. Like I've met so many great people. I started interacting on and reading so much great content. And eventually, I mean, I'm glad that you like what I post because eventually it taught me that I love it. I have so much fun doing it. And I think that this is why I stick to it. This is why people like it, hopefully, is because genuinely this is me. It's me saying like, hey, this is what I have fun with. This is what I learned. This is what I've been through. And hopefully people relate. So.
They do, absolutely they do. And that's the best part is because when it shows through when you're genuine and when you're authentic because that's really what social media is all about. It's about sharing your story and relating to the person, not just, you want to
Yeah,
make sure that the person that you're dealing with is the same, when their online presence versus their business. And some people are very kind of vague and standoffish when it comes to their social media, especially notorious. And this really, kind of tangentially why I started the CRE, LinkedIn challenge was because people in commercial real estate were at the time, 5 years ago, when I started it, like very little involved, to be posting listings and be posting, closings and that kind of stuff. And it's like people want to know who you are more than
exactly.
what you do. And that definitely shines through with how you have used social media, and so it's certainly like your personality shows through with that, and that's why I think so many people are just drawn to you and your content because like I said, it shows through that you actually love it, you enjoy it, and you're sharing your story, which is an incredible one. I mean, first of all, coming to this country, English not being your first language, obviously, and being able to excel in a W-2 and then transitioning through that in the real estate world syndication space is something that a lot of people kind of strive to and can look up to and can see, oh, wow, these are challenges that she overcame. These are, definitely I can overcome my own challenges as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really what I want to show people now, right? It's like, hey, I'm not out of the trenches. I don't consider myself like extremely experienced. I still feel like I'm new. The commercial multifamily side we've been doing for only a couple of years. So
Mhm.
I'm like, come along the ride because we're learning together.
Sure. So are you still involved in besides for the property management side, but in terms for on the single family or the condo side, you guys still have some investment properties there?
Only just the one, having just moved. We left our house that we had down in Texas. So that one is gonna get rented soon, but that's really just the last one.
Gotcha.
Although I will say that, o over time, it's funny because again, I was just talking to this gentleman and we were talking about the fact that different people will give you different advice. And at the end of the day, I think it's very important to do what you like, what you want, and based on your individual goals, right? And so for me, when we first started multifamily, we still had a couple of single family homes where I was like, let's just sell them.
Hmm.
Now, looking back, would I have done things the same if I had the foresight that I have now? Like probably not. but you have to live and learn. You have to go through your own journey. And so that's why when people say, oh, you should keep your single family homes forever, or you should not, you should sell it as soon as you can and go all in. At the end of the day, I'm a true believer that you should do what works best for you. Like ask yourself, I always tell my investors, ask yourself how much time, how much
Mm,
resources, financial or else, you want to invest, and what do you really love? Because there's going to be bad days either way. It doesn't matter if you're active, passive, or something else. Um, and you're gonna want to stick to like something that, hey, even on the bad days, it makes you happy to do it. Even when it sucks, you're still always finding out that like it's fine. There's beauty in what I'm doing. I know my big picture, and I'm gonna keep going. And you cannot do that if you're doing something that somebody else told you to do and you just followed.
right. Right. So for you, what would have been different? I mean, you said you may not have done the things the same way now that you know kind of the experience that you've had. Like how would you have potentially done things differently?
So now I think so it's funny because I always tell people if I could go back, I wouldn't change a thing. I'm also a firm believer that every experience, good and bad, gets you to where you are now.
Right.
Um, but I also learned over my years that if you own real estate, never let it go. So it's a little bit of both. It's a little bit of like I wouldn't change a thing, but then also everything I've ever bought, like even my triplex. Of course, I looked it up when we moved back to Chicago because we sold it in the height of COVID. So it was a great deal thanks to the market skyrocketing at the time.
Right.
But even a great deal has gotten even greater in the last 5 years that we were in Texas. And so when we moved back and I looked it up, I was like, oh man, if we had kept it, we would have like that much, equity in it by now.
Right.
But so yeah, it's a little bit of like, you know what? We knew why we were doing what we did at the time, and it was worth it, and it got us here. But then yes, if you have real estate, don't let it go.
I
That's
hear
my
it.
advice today.
Well, I mean, I'm curious though, Linda, because from a multifamily kind of syndication perspective, most of the times the deals are in and out 3 to 5, 7 years or whatever. So how do you reconcile those two philosophies?
Yeah, and I'm so glad you asked that because that was one thing that when my husband and I first joined that mastermind that I was talking about earlier, really early on, we realized so basically multifamily is like flipping, right? It's a very long flip, but if you focus on value add, you buy a property that's distressed, you rehab it somehow, whether it's in um, property management wise or actual physical asset making it better or adding amenities, whatever it is. Um, and then eventually you resell it. And for
Hmm.
us, we were like, okay, so maybe I don't want to do that every day either, like forever either. Now, the way we reconcile it is that early on, we decided at some point we're going to buy a couple of legacy properties and just hold on to those, even if it is 50, 100, 150 units. We will hold on to those for a very long time because there are ways to do that too. There are ways to acquire property with
Sure.
investors and then eventually buying the investors out, right?
Right.
So that's definitely in the
Yeah.
back of our mind for that reason, because early on we realized, hey, this is also kind of short term. And as much as we want to scale, our goal here is to be in this for a very, very long time.
Yeah. And that's a great strategy because, and I know, I've actually invested in a couple deals where, yeah, we've, gotten our equity back, and the syndicators or the principals have bought out the investors, basically returned the equity. And so that, I mean, that's great. Again, as long as it's transparent and as long as it's part of the overall plan, I think that's a really great way to combine both. You're able to offer the returns, offer, what you're offering to the investors, and at the same time be able to build wealth and build a legacy for your own family, which is equally as important, I think. Listen, in the end of the day, it's a business, and so whatever business model you come up with, hopefully it's going to work, right? And you're going to fine tune it along the way as it goes. It's not necessarily going to be able to do for every type of property. I mean, you may have to find the right types of properties from the beginning to be able to, execute something like that long term, but definitely makes sense. I mean, there's a lot of people I know that have, had multifamily properties in their family for, 50 years and more. So it's something that can definitely be extremely lucrative over the long term.
Absolutely, absolutely. And going back to um do what you love because even those properties that you keep on forever, it doesn't necessarily have to be multifamily, right? It could be like recently I spoke to a gentleman who has um RV park. And he's had it forever, owns free and clear. And it gives him a lot of like, money every month, just himself. So yeah, whatever asset you're into, I think that once you have it, if you're able to keep it, might as well.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, they don't make any more land. They're not making any more. So you gotta, grab onto it and take a strong hold of it and keep it for as long as you can. But it's interesting,
Absolutely.
because I do see most, and you're absolutely right, most syndications are focused on like that flip, basically, the short term. And it really actually kind of came much more prevalent and clear during COVID when, in 2021, 22, when prices were like crazy and people who had projected, a 5 to 7 year hold were selling after like 20 months. And
Yeah.
it didn't sit well with me too much because it seemed like it was like a bubble. Yeah, sure, people were getting amazing returns, and that was all fine and good for the time being. But in the end of the day, it really did drive prices up quite a bit as well, and I think affected the market in a way which now, years later, we're seeing a little bit of the aftermath of that.
Yeah, now we're all dealing with it. And I think that especially the people who missed that boat of selling within 20 months, right? Or within 3 or 4 years. And now they're trying to sell now and they're not getting the value that they thought. So I agree with you that as great as COVID was for real estate people who played it the right way, I
Mhm.
think that long term it probably hurt it more than anything, especially looking at certain markets. Like, for example, I remember moving to Houston and having my eye on Austin and very early on being like, Austin is going to have negative rent growth very soon because it got too high too fast.
Right?
And at some point, it needs to stabilize. So it's difficult. I mean, nobody has a crystal ball. Obviously, there's indicators and metrics and KPIs that you can track. And the more experience you have, the more, number one, you kind of see things coming, but also the more prepared you are and you know how to protect yourself. But yeah, COVID was definitely one of those one in a lifetime event that hopefully one in a lifetime event that made us realize, oh shoot, we thought it was great, but now we're dealing with it.
Yeah. I did mention I want to go back to just for a second, if you don't mind. I mentioned kind of in passing your virtual meetup that you have.
Yeah.
If you want to plug that quickly, I'd love to kind of hear what that's about and how often that meets.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's called Save the Chat. And the reason why we called it that is because we want people to realize you're not going to do deals, whether it's with passive or active investors or even service providers. You're not going to do those deals just by coming to a virtual meetup once a week. It's every Thursday, it's at noon Eastern, and we only do it for an hour. It's a networking call, so we don't have any speakers. It's not a webinar. All we do is put people in breakout rooms and we tell them, go and meet each other and do more deals together. But
Mm,
again, you're not going to do that just like, if you meet somebody Thursday, you're not going to do a deal with them Friday. So we
right.
called it Save the Chat as a way of reminding people the magic's in the follow-up, the magic's in the follow-throughs. Make sure that you save all everybody's information and you actually do build that relationship with them beyond our meetup. I'm always telling people, look, it's also about showing how consistent you are and how
Hmm.
committed you are. I decided to take on this call because that's how I started myself is I would go to a lot of networking calls that I still go to when I can to this day. And so now I have my little list that I pass on whenever somebody tells me, hey, I'm newer, how like what's your secret? I say my secret is networking. Here's my list. Go to all these calls and meet people. But
Right.
you're not good again, you're not going to do deals with them just 1 hour, 2 hours, or even 5 hours a week if you go to all of them. What you have to do is be on week in, week out, even when things go wrong, even when things go right,
Yep.
for 6 months, a year and a half. Some of those calls I've been going to for 2 years. I've took mine over from somebody else who had created it over a year and a half ago. And I think that the consistency and again the follow up with the people is where
Right.
you end up growing as a community. So we love it. Save the chat every Thursday at noon, and we would love to have you on.
Yeah, absolutely. And the truth is, like I loved it also, when COVID started, we started the real estate connections virtual meetup, did that for years, and I saw the same exact thing. You'd have people show up. I mean, during that time it was crazy to amount because everyone needed that outlet. We had, over 100 people like every time. But, as it dwindled out, you'd still, you have the same consistent people showing up week after week. And I saw, real deals happen through that and the breakout rooms and the networking that happens there. it's real. I mean, especially when, given the fact that at the time it was impossible to go to physical meetups and, go to the conferences
Hmm.
that people lacked and, kind of had that thirst for. So much so, it's an awesome opportunity. There's so many out there. I mean, yours and others as well. So if you're listening to this and you're not part of any of those kind of virtual meetups, I would highly recommend looking into them. Check out Save the Chat, check out the other ones, and see how you can meet people, how you can network. And a lot of these are free. They're not, the masterminds that cost you $20,000, $30,000, right? These are just opportunities to meet with and talk with people who are likely like you, who are, either trying to get involved or are involved in the real estate world. So highly recommend it. Cannot plug that enough. Linda, I want to transition now to what we call the final four. And these are four questions I
Let's do
ask
it.
all my guests. First one to you is, what is the worst job that you ever had?
Oh, that's a tough one because I think I mentioned that to you earlier. I've seen your show multiple times. I knew the question was coming. So I thought about it before. And before the first thing that came to my mind was, oh, maybe I'll say door to door because it was hard, right? Like I was on a podcast once where somehow the conversation got me to talk about the time that I was in a shootout. So it wasn't fun as a job. But again, it taught me so much. I talked about it earlier, so I cannot say that it was the worst job. I would say I would say one time I had like one of those giant baskets that they used to do to have at the movie theater for snacks. And I was supposed to give out a pamphlet and then whatever goodies was in the basket on the street for like several hours. That one wasn't fun. I also used to be an event hostess where you literally like at the entrance of a massive conference or expo or whatever, and you're supposed to look cute all day but not move. And the best question people ask you 36 times a day is where's the bathroom? And you need to be able to say that in at least five different languages. And that's also not fun. So yeah, one of these two.
Those are crazy jobs, on your feet, all day also is definitely not easy.
On
Not
heels too, by the way.
not easy at all. I'll give you a lot of credit for doing that. I can't imagine. Second question, what's a book you've read that's given you a paradigm shift?
Yeah. The Millionaire Next Door. I really loved that book because when I picked it up, I really thought it was going to be strategies or tips and tricks, and to realize that it was all about data.
Hmm.
And the data that I read was so unexpected for me to hear about how millionaires in our country really live, and what the percentages are, right? Like how many millionaires have owned the same car for 20 years. Like discovering this was really mind-blowing for me because I realized, oh, it's not what I thought. It's not the people who take pictures next to a Maserati on Instagram.
Absolutely true. Yeah, awesome book. Highly recommend that. We'll put that in the show notes if anyone wants to check that out. Third question, what's a skill or talent that you would like to learn?
Ooh, that I would like to learn. I can't whistle. So, it would be nice if I knew how to whistle or sing or something like that. Has nothing to do with real estate, but something about me
Anything.
that I'm like, I can't believe I made it to this age without being able to whistle.
Okay. Well, it's never too late. Never give up on your
I
dreams.
mean, it's never
Linda,
too late.
fourth and final question, what does success mean to you?
So to me, success means being able to wake up in the morning and you can do whatever you want. And it doesn't mean that you're gonna do happy, exhilarating things every day. But even when you're doing the most random, streamline things, or even when you're having a bad day, at least it's something that you chose. You're doing what you want, where you want, with the people that you want to do it with. To me, that's success. It's having that level of independence.
Yeah, love it. Very clear, very concise, and it hits home. So definitely agree with that. Finally, where can our listeners find you or reach out to you if they want?
Yeah, absolutely. So save the chat every Thursday at noon Eastern. LinkedIn, I'm huge on there. Linda Holtz, you can find me there. And then our website is marriedtorealestate.com. So it's married number two realestate.com.
Awesome. We'll make sure to put all that in the show notes. And really a pleasure, Linda. Thank you again for joining me.
Of course, thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Awesome. And to our listeners, thank you guys for joining us all the way to the end once again. And remember, until next time, the best advice comes only when you ask.